New monthly challenge, let's go. What's the 4-star we have this time? Oh crap. Fortunately we have 10 extra lives to help us survive the start. So we open with using Ranger's immense arts damage to kill everything. From the first 4 starting stages, only one of them is survivable. It's the one with the bunch of slugs and the Maria Nero archers, because we can just kill a lot of slugs. 2 of the other stages have range enemies or two tanky enemies for rangers to kill, so they would all kill us. With survivalist though, every stage is survivable, so we get an easy start. This monthly took less time than I expected. Maybe next monthly I'll try no operators at all. We get Vigna right at the start, so now we're back to the other run we had, but we're down 1 operator. This stage requires 0 input to clear, if there is a survivalist. It works on hard mode too. Sadly, the treasure chest could not be protected. Somehow I'll live with that. Next we get Jaya. It's an easy choice because we need healing and damage. We get to upgrade the Vanguard from the shop. I considered getting a second Vanguard, but the other ones aren't really as good as Vigna. Having a bit of extra bulk isn't worth it. The pathing was essentially identical, the only difference was what stage we had to fight right now, and we went with the patrol squad, because we can just lick the enemies in the top lane and get a free win. A ranger is pretending he's doing damage, while Vigna solves the stage. "35 enemies on this stage means there's a duck or a bear at the end. However, with no form of slow or range damage, we have no hope of killing it. If we had the stun bomb instead of the knockback, a duck could be killed by Vigna. But no such luck here. So the duck simply escapes. So far, pretty good start, the survivalist carried us. I debate between Gummy and Durnar. Ultimately I decided to go with Durnar, because I need the damage. We're going to use rangers to kill the knight. Vigna clears out the castle for him. He'll make it in time, no worries. Jaya is there for moral support. Vigna provides much better moral support. Ranger saw that. A true professional. Debating between Ethan and upgrading Jaya. I went with an upgraded Jaya, because he can beat the crap out of some bosses on the 3rd floor. 15% extra def is mostly irrelevant. I'm debating whether I can do the emergency stage here. If not, I have to choose the top path, even though the bottom one has more fights. I think about the Tetris stage, and I just decided I don't have enough operators to do it safely. So we do the encounter first, and avoid the emergency stage. The spider stage is fairly easy if we have a few ground operators. We just stab all the spiders to death. We group them up a bit for Jaya, accidentally leak something through because of it. And now Jaya has some fun murdering all the spiders. There's a mistake we made here. I underestimated how tanky the red spider is. What will happen now is that Jaya will kill it, and then the other spider will end up in Ranger's range and kill him. What I should have done is just retreat Jaya. If the spider reaches Durnar, it cannot hit the range tile. Because of that, we're going to leak the 2 drones on the stage that Rangers can actually kill. The other 2 drones are unkillable, so they will leak straight through. We lose a life because of it. We debate between a supporter and the medic. Ultimately I decide with Deep Core because she can be used to tank things, and that should help keep me alive. We'll get the AFK stage. My concerns about doing it earlier were proven correct, as now even with Deep Core I'm still going to leak a few enemies. Most of this was because I fell asleep while doing it, but even so. Despite falling asleep, we only leaked 1 enemy. The game gives me the option to pick a medic again, which we ignore. I wonder if the game was trying to tell me something with that medic. We decided to upgrade Durnar here, because we need more fighting power. Oh, look what the boss is. I wonder what would have been a useful operator for this fight. Now, we do actually have the operators to do this fight perfectly, but I played it incorrectly. I tried to see if Jai can 1v1 the boss. He could not. That was a bad idea. What I should have done instead was basically just use Jaya on the healing tile to sow everything else, and use Deep Cover to stall the boss. If we delay the boss enough, we will have time to kill it after we kill all the normal enemies, and then just use Durnar and Vigna support for Jaya. If we had done it that way, we would have only leaked a few enemies or none at all. Instead, for some reason I decided it's a good idea to try and fight the boss a bit, and had Durnar on the range tile instead of Jaya just permanently there, which kind of put me at a disadvantage. Yeah, that was the bad play. If Jaya was in position, he could have killed all the casters, then we'd have barely leaked anything. But with no items, Jaya can't 1v1 the boss, so we leak a couple of enemies. You know, or 14. Rangers bravely sacrifices himself to save us, and now he's just down to cleaning up the boss. That was a very, very bad play on my part. The second Jaya deploy was the critical error. If we hadn't done that, we would have won easily. Now though, we turned an easy run into a bit of a nightmare where we barely have any lives. We get cover from the ground operators, and then we have to pick between 2 fairly crappy items. I decided to go with the reduced attack because it works better with high defense. We pick the path that takes us to the shop, of course. This stage is fairly free with deep cover, because the tentacles can tank the spiders. My only concern was killing the drones, but as it turns out, Rangers has exactly enough damage to do so. I wasted a tentacle here. The one that died next to Jaya should have been 1 tile down, then it would have been safe. We try to use Durnar to break the rat's shield, but she doesn't charge fast enough. The spiders come and everything kind of explodes. Regardless, we still clean up the spiders without too much hassle. And then we deal with all the runners. The drone leaks straight through, but thanks to the temporary lives, that makes no difference to us. We then jump the boss and beat him to death. This time Turner lives exactly long enough to break the shield. We get Pudding from after the fight, and she came just in time so she can help us survive the air raid. Using every ranged operator we have barely enough damage to deal with the drones. Our ground operators mostly deal with the trash mobs without much trouble. We use Giant Orange Tile for the first time in the run to kill off the enemy. And then Pudding cleans up all the drones without much trouble. Summoners are very efficient at tanking bombs, because every tentacle can hit several bombs. Even a new one deep cover could make it through the emergency. 20 starting TP is great, because we don't really want more vanguards. Unfortunately we get courier, who we have no use for. We get a very lucky drop with the spinach, and that should help us go through the run. We then get some extra lives that will help us stay alive later. And we finally decide to get a medic overeaten. We get Susuru, because that's the most power you can get from a single medic ticket. And then we get the prison fight. We have a bunch of operators and deep cover, so it's a fairly easy cleanup. Honestly, I think this stage is easier than the one with 4 hobos, the simp stage. Play around with the knockback to speed up how we kill stuff. I don't think it really mattered. And then we use Pudding to kill everything else. Oh, the tentacles tank. And that just leaves the boss. At this point we can just leak, it won't really matter. But I still want to kill the boss. He deserves it. Stuns are annoying. Unfortunately, Jaya isn't a medic, so we can't keep up. Jaya tries to do the boss one more time, but just barely doesn't make it. And for the first time I've ever played this stage, Sultan escapes. We get 2 upgrades. We upgrade Pudding and Cutter, because they do damage, of course. We then get the emergency version of this stage, which is somewhat unfortunate. I misclicked deep cover, you should have been facing up, and that's going to cause me to leak a bunch of drones throughout the run. Though Pudding has a much better position than before, and that will keep her alive, will keep me alive. Because of the extra defense, it's fairly easy to deal with the boxers. They have reduced attack, we have extra defense, so even an emergency they basically do no damage. Unfortunately, the deep cover position is screwing me over quite a bit. We simply cannot kill the bomb drones, so they just move right on through. We only kill them when we have Pudding skill. We leak a bunch of enemies, putting yet another dent in our lives. Finally we get to upgrade Rangers into a Mei. He's evolving. And then we get the Arts Damage and Stun, not too useful. Finally we make it to the 5th floor. So the debate here is whether I can do the emergency stage. The upper stage is actually the scarier of the two, but after thinking about it I decided that there is no way in hell I can survive the emergency, so we have to do this one anyway, even though the red mist stage is much easier. We set up the operators and we will kill most of the enemies without too much hassle. Essentially we're just getting carried by Pudding and the Black Caster book. The Wraiths are terrifying and unkillable. We stack up all the Wraiths together, and luckily we managed to kill one Wraith, so we don't lose any lives. Only a few stages left to the boss. I think for a bit about what I want for a second guard. I decided my best option is Otage, because we need something that can actually kill Phantom, and she just does the most damage out of any guard I have. There is the potential for the other stage to be something worse, so we take the red mist stage. If you have a medic, it's nothing scary, especially with the extra defense, making the Naruto runners harmless. Jaya is just sitting on the top lane sightseeing, but Susuru is enough to keep 4 targets alive, thanks to the tablet, which gives us 10 health again to co-operators, so we can survive fairly easily. I decide to burn Susuru's first kill here, because I'm concerned with something dying randomly. Almost missed the agent, but Durnar beat him to death. I can't really get much value out of Pudding here, because her health is very low, so she'll die to a stray caster shot. On top of that, all of the enemies here have fairly high resistance, so I don't bother deploying her. Durnar just barely loses the 1v1, and Pudding cleans up. And then Susuru sustains her until the boss walks over. I could also just retreat everything and then drop Giant him, but Vigna stabbing him is more satisfying. We get attack on melee operators. This is great, since our plan to kill Phantom is Utage plus Jaya, and we get an upgrade on Utage. Very lucky. Now we have a fighting chance for the boss. We get an encounter with a few ingots, and we go through the shop. We get 10 attack speed from it. I decide to upgrade Mei first. Because we're going to need her to kill all the dancers by herself, due to how small our team is. Going through the safe house, we get lucky and get a squad limit option. I'd prefer to take the lives, but we simply need more operator squads. Otherwise there's no way we can fight. We decide to take the item. Slightly reduced attack, so all the enemies have 24% reduced attack. That helps, but it's not too critical. And now we go through the stage. As always, first we deploy Mei, so she starts killing all the dancers for us. And then we set up Pudding, Durnar, to deal with the tanky enemies. Ranged operators deployed first, because there's an enemy that hits 2 targets at once. The one from Mudrock's event. And they're very dangerous to low health casters that have 800 health. That's why we retreat Cutter, so Vigna and Durner can have higher target priority. Otherwise Pudding will get shot and die. May just barely has the damage to clean up all of the dancers on her own. Now our plan is to bait Phantom's dash with something and then have Utage and Vigna hit him a lot to do most of his health. We somehow get an interesting block where Phantom gets blocked down towards the wall. This now causes him to dash into Vigna when he moves forward, which is unfortunate because she dies faster than she otherwise would have. We immediately replace with Cutter and try to do as much damage as possible. But Phantom is already on its way. His Q charges very quickly. At this point, May has finished with the dancers, so we're just waiting to catch the last few enemies, and then we'll retreat her for later. We kill the Reapers with Jaya, because it's dangerous if they stack up. Now this is a mistake, I should have already retreated Jaya. He can't really kill a defender in a meaningful time. May is replaced by Pudding. We put her in a place where she can both kill the blimps coming and then damage Phantom later. I have a few unnecessary leaks here because Jaya wasn't retreated in time. He could have caught one enemy. But at this point it's too late because we need him on the top lane to fight with Phantom. We deploy Jaya early to bait the AoE attack so it doesn't hit Pudding. Utage just barely kills the boss. And now we're just left with 3 problems. We have 1 life and 3 enemies heading towards the box. May is charging up, just barely on time, but she will prioritize the ranged enemies. We try to use her to slow the dancer first. Exactly as she slowed, Cutter comes in, blocks her, and cleans everything up. GG.